There, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are on Healthy Love, which is the podcast about building and sustaining healthy relationships. And I'm so excited today. I'm Cynthia Clark, by the way, and I'm a relationship expert and palm reading consultant. And I just love to bring really interesting guests onto the show. And I have a really great guest. I'm so excited to introduce you to her. Her name is Robyn Smith, and she is a body-centered relationship coach, which I'm so excited to learn about what that means. But thank you so much for coming on the show, Robyn.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So tell me, how did you get into what you're doing now?
Well, I call my work the yoga of healthy relationships, and I've been a yoga teacher for about 25 years. So I started off in yoga, and I taught teacher training for 11 years, and just did every kind of yoga workshop, yoga therapy, and traveled yoga retreats and all that. Super fun. And I studied a lot of yoga philosophy too, and the tantric philosophy of Kashmir Shaivism. I was a Buddhist meditation practitioner, so I've been meditating for decades now. But what I was finding is that I was having trouble in my relationships, and the teachings and practices I was doing weren't necessarily helping me, and I thought they should. There's so much in yoga and Buddhism, and of course they're related. That can help how we relate to ourselves and how we relate to others. And I can't say it didn't help. It definitely helped. But I was still in my intimate relationships with my husband, my partner before, my friendships. I was getting into, just various challenges, especially in my relationship before the one I'm in now. I've been happily married and with my husband for over 17 years. So that's pretty awesome. But before that, we had a ton of power struggles. I just felt like I wasn't getting heard and understood in the ways I wanted. It was like an uphill battle and super frustrating. So I knew that I needed to find a better way. And I studied communication. I studied nonviolent communication, which was, a great set of tools. But it was still pretty hard to implement. And it was this formula that can be a little bit, seemingly forced. And then people don't always react very well to that system.
Yeah.
But it was, very empowering to learn how to use that. But what happened for me is at some point several years ago, I just realized I needed to shift what I was doing in my relationships. And with my women friends, I didn't feel like I had enough. A lot of people move out of the area I'm in. So good friends had moved, and I just wasn't connecting in the ways that I wanted. And so I started a women's circle, and that helped me a lot to open myself more and be seen in ways that I hadn't been willing to. And from there, I joined a coaching training. I was more doing that for myself, but I did get certified. And through the training, so much transformed for me in all of my relationships. I was pretty good in my relationship with my husband, but even where we were having struggles, a lot got better. And in my relationships with friends and even business associates. So through that work and all that happened for me, I just decided I got to share this. This stuff is powerful. And if I can do it, I'm sure other people can. So I became a coach and, started seeing clients several years back. And as soon as I got to the training, I felt like it was a kind of a yoga because it was a body-centered type of coaching. So I'm still practicing that. But then I did some other trainings and I learned to work with developmental trauma. And that training was also a very somatic or body-centered approach. So everything that I do integrates, the experience of the body, the intelligence of the body into the work. And the reason for that is that, we actually learn a lot more. We integrate the material more. We get deeper insights more when we experience our bodies. So, I answered more than you asked. But
No, that's so fascinating. So So do you feel like people are somewhat disconnected from their bodies in relationships, or are they just going through the motions, or maybe they're too busy with their work, or, what do you think is the biggest problem?
Great question. Yes, to all of the above. um, a lot of us are pretty disconnected, excuse me, from our bodies because we don't value the body wisdom, and we don't know how to access it. In our culture, especially, it's like whatever's from here up is how we identify ourselves, right? In our personality, our intelligence, our looks. So we don't place a lot of emphasis on the information we're receiving from our body, outside of I have to use the bathroom and I'm hungry and I'm tired or I have pain, you know. But beyond that, there's so much more information that we can resource in the body. So yeah, I think a lot of people aren't body centered. Even people like me who are doing yoga, a lot and exercising and whatnot. That's just one kind of tuning into your body. But the work that I share now is just taking that to a whole nother level. Yeah, and you asked like, what's the biggest issues that people are dealing with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do people struggle with the most, do you think?
Yeah, what they tell me a lot is they want to communicate better, and I know that's a big issue, because we weren't trained how to communicate. I'm in a place where it's like, God, we could change the world if we taught our kids how to communicate. How to really talk about their emotions, how to communicate in I statements, how to not blame and criticize. But most of us don't grow up with any training in communication. And so we take stuff out on other people. We hurt people with our words. We're blaming and criticizing, and that's very harmful to an intimate connection and to self-esteem, which is, of course, what kids need so much when they're growing up. They need to feel good about themselves. So I think the biggest problems are the communication and the early wounding that we've all received because no one was a perfect parent. And that's where the developmental trauma stuff comes in. Developmental trauma is anything that happened to you while you were developing, but especially the biggest stuff, that's hardest to reverse, or that makes the biggest impact, we could say, is in the first 3 years of life and in utero.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff you couldn't control because you're not in control of your life at that age, and stuff that may not have been directly trying to harm you, like your mother was in the hospital when she was pregnant, or she was depressed, or some stressful events occurred while you were a child, or maybe you were in the hospital hooked up to machines, or there's just a whole host of things that can happen, or divorce, fighting in the family, in addition to abuse. So all that stuff can affect how we perceive ourselves, and then how we interact in relationships.
So when you work with people, do you help them with their like nonverbal communication as well as their verbal? Like how would you approach that?
That's a great question. Yeah. It's funny. I don't address that directly so much, although it's, they say nonverbal communication is like 90% of how we communicate. Like we get so much more from gestures, facial expression, body language than actual words. But I guess I don't talk about that directly as much as I encourage people to tune into how they're feeling and what's going on for them on the inside, and then learn to express that in skillful ways.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's awesome.
Mhm.
So so tell us a little bit about some of the programs that you offer and some of the things that you've got going on. I would love to hear more about that.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for asking. So a few things I've got going on. One is I do see clients privately. And so I do work, in person where I live in Arcata, California. And also I work on Zoom like we're doing now, which is super fun because it's body centered. I need to see people's face and body language. So the Zoom, this what would you call it, method or whatever this is, really good. And then I also have 2 online programs. So one of them, the entry level program, is the communication course that I'll be running probably starting in late May or early June this year. But I'll just keep offering that, and it's going to be around authentic communication. And that will be a 5-week course, and there'll be video modules as well as live, Zoom. We'll have Zoom conference calls as well, where people can ask questions, and I can do a little coaching. So that will be where I actually share these body-centered communication practices. I often call it embodied communication, or the yoga of communication. So we'll be going through the basic techniques and practices, and then also talking about, the challenges and obstacles that might show up along the way in that course. So just a 5-week module or a 5-week course. And then the next level up is what I call, right now it's called the Rockin' Relationship Reboot. And that one's evolving. It's probably going to be at least a 3 to 6 month course the next time I run it, because the last times I've run it, people just wanted more. There's always more we can cover. So, but this has been a women's group coaching program online. So again, we use Zoom, and I cover just the key topics that women are dealing with in their relationships. So we do cover some embodied communication, but we look at other areas as well: trust issues, how to repair, how to thrive, self-esteem issues. So those are the 3 main things I've got going on: the privates, the communication course, and the group coaching course.
So do you mainly work with women, or do you also work with men?
I do also work with men. I really enjoy working with men, and really, want to see men thriving in their relationships just as much as I want to support women. So right now, the coaching group is for women only, but the communication course and the privates are open to both men and women.
Perfect. So I love this concept of yoga, like how you structure it that way. So can you explain a little bit more about that so people can kind of get an idea of how you work?
Yes, you bet. The yoga, as we chatted before, a lot of people think of yoga as just postures and breathing, but it is so much more. It's a philosophy of living. But the reason I call it the yoga of communication, or yoga of healthy relationships, is because we are incorporating all aspects of who we are. So people often say body, mind, spirit, right, for yoga, and it really is that. And I think communications are that too, and relationships. We have to incorporate all of who we are if we want to really have intimacy and a deep connection. So often we're just in our heads, and we're in our trauma, and we're in our belief and our drama, and that creates a lot of discord and frustration, and kind of people missing, like not feeling heard, not feeling understood. So the yoga of communication, I interweave and am, my work is infused by yogic philosophy, and specifically tantric philosophy, which at its roots, it says, let me just clarify. Most people hear the word tantra and they think sex, which is not true. So tantra is really a yogic philosophy, and then some Western practitioners just took a little bit of tantra, like say it's a paragraph out of an encyclopedia that was about sexual relations, and they took that and said this is tantra, but it's not. Tantra is about our relationship with ourselves and others in the universe, and at its core, it says that who we are is essentially whole and perfect, and there's nothing missing from our essence. And so Tantra, like all yoga, is saying we need to get back to and know who we are, this essential nature, as whole and perfect. And so the practices of yoga and Tantra, and my work as well in this coaching work, is to kind of peel away the layers that obscure this essential nature, our essence, our truth, if you will, our beauty, our light, that which has always been there before, confusion, before layers of trauma that happened, before believing we weren't enough, before feeling we weren't loved, all that stuff covers our essence. And so these practices and the coaching work that I do are to reveal that, so we can live from a more authentic place, and a place where we feel whole, and then we attract relationships that meet us there, right? We're much more likely to feel satisfied in our relationships and in our lives when we're starting from a place of wholeness instead of emptiness, or full of holes and needing to get filled up by someone or something. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like a lot of times people attract unhealthy relationships when they're from that place of woundedness.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I went through my own fatal attraction when I was right after a divorce, when I was super vulnerable. So I think a lot of people can resonate with that. And as they get back to their wholeness, I think that's a beautiful way of explaining it, that they're going to just be, better in all parts of their lives, really. I mean, including their relationships. So what a beautiful way to do it. And it feels like you come from such a loving space. I just can feel that from you. And it seems to me like you really understand the pain and the stress that everybody goes through, so, and we all go through it, you're totally right about that time when we're just little babies is so vulnerable, and we'd have no control over the things that happen to us at that time. So it feels to me like part of what you do is really help people like get over some of that stuff. So
or process, or just make peace with it, and also kind of clear away misunderstandings and
all that stuff.
Move through it, or not let it define you anymore, and feel good about yourself again.
Yeah, that's awesome. So so wrapping up here, is there anything that you would like to share with people that you feel like we haven't talked about yet, or that you feel like people need to know?
It's a great question. Two things are coming up. One is, I was just thinking about, my client base, women who come in, and men too, wanting to work on their relationships, wanting to have better communication. And often what I discover is they're dealing with a lot of anxiety. And this is like an undercurrent, and they know it, but they don't realize how much it's connected to their struggles in relationships and in work, and living a life that feels like it's in balance. So I just wanted to just add that it is a piece that I work with quite a bit, and really helping people kind of work with their nervous system, balancing the system in a somatic way, so that they can feel more relaxed. And it's another part of being whole, really, is this deep, when there's this deep anxiety, it's this undercurrent, and it drives how we show up in the world, and when we can release and kind of unwind that, we can relax and spread out, not take everything so personally, not push ourselves so hard, whatever it is that anxiety is driving. I just think it's a key piece that I just constantly see in my practice, and so I do bring it into the work that I do privately in groups. And I am, if you go to my website, conscioustrhivingrelationships.com, and I know Cynthia has a link for that, you can get a free download from me, which is, you'll see it's, the one I have there right now is called the 3-step plan to the biggest relationship mistakes keeping you from feeling supported and understood. And so I know that's a long title, but it's really juicy, and it's fairly short. It's about 3 pages of key biggest relationship mistakes that most people end up in, and then just some simple body-centered practices that people can do to just step onto the path of healing.
That sounds like a great tool for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's pretty meaty.
Yeah, so, well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate you and all the great work that you're doing. It sounds like people can really get a lot of benefit from your programs and your coaching, and let's get out there and be healthier and happier and communicate better and get rid of that anxiety, and know that you don't have to be alone to do it.
Yes.
There's people like you who can help. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And that's a great note to end on, because I don't think people can do this work alone.
No,
Working on relationships we need to be in, not the relationship that you're working on, but a different kind of relationship to get the support that you need.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, all right. And
thanks for the work that you're doing to bring people together. And I'm totally honored to be here. So thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks everybody for tuning in. If you liked this episode, please share it with others, and please subscribe to our channel. And also let us know what else you would like for us to discuss, and we'll put it into a future episode. So have a wonderful day, everybody, and be healthy, be happy, and live life with love.
Beautiful. Namaste.